hello everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. If you would please share this out to your friends. If you're watching on Facebook, share. If you're on YouTube, figure out a way to share it too. Get some more people on. We're on Facebook at 88.1 FM, Fargo Moorhead, and we're on Facebook at Duke 1517. This is a Mexican Crossing Lines broadcast for today, which is Wednesday, February 3rd. We're just going to play a little music for a few minutes. Then we're going to go on. We're going to go on and on. Actually, QAnon. We're going to give you a great show. We're going to have an hour or less of information. Very important things that are happening in this country. Things that are happening in our government, in our communities. We just need to talk about it. We want to get information out. So join us. Have others join us too. Got about another minute, and we'll start the show, and it's going to be a doozy.
Welcome, everyone, to a Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. And tonight, I'm going to be focused on the future of the Republican Party. Is it the QOP or the GOP? Because what we have seen is an influence, an infusion of Q Anonymous, and there is a fierce debate going on right now in Congress, specifically about Marjorie Taylor Greene. And this is the newly minted Congresswoman from Georgia, newly elected Congresswoman from Georgia, that right now Republican leaders are discussing removing her from her committees. Other people are calling for her to be expelled from Congress for her beliefs, for her lies, for her connection to white supremacy, anti-Semitism, and violence. Specific calls for violence against members of Congress, including Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Nancy Pelosi, calling for the death of agents of the FBI. And all of this is happening against the backdrop of the punishing of Liz Cheney. The what did they have her censured in
Wyoming? Yes.
Wyoming. Mm-hmm. What this really amounts to is basically saying what they reject her as a Republican.
I guess if she voted something and it's like they're like, no, you can't vote that way. We're going to censure you. And in Wyoming, it basically means nothing.
I can't understand why Liz Cheney is being punished of all of the Republican leaders that have spoken out against the insurrection on the Capitol. But it seems misogynistic to me. It seems sexist to me that she is being singled out for punishment when other people who have said as much as she has said about the insurrection and about the culpability, if you will, of the president, or the responsibility of the president in inciting that violence? Why do you think that Liz Cheney is being punished, singled out for punishment, for censure? And I mean, this was done like that. It was quick. She said something against the president. She talked about he should be impeached and why he should be impeached for inciting the insurrection. And boy, they took her to the woodshed right away. Meanwhile, we got QAnon conspiracy theorist, Jewish lasers started the wildfires in California.
Yeah.
Denies school shootings happened. Denies 9/11 happened. Crazy Marjorie Taylor Greene, on the other hand. And no one in the GOP seems to be able to call her out. I mean, nobody is even willing to say that she needs to be removed, that she needs to have, that there something needs to happen to address her words and her actions. We're going to talk about that tonight on my show here on A Mexican Crossing Lines. First, though, I want to thank those of you who support the station's work. Without your support of independent media, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. We wouldn't be able to bring you the reports, the in-depth reporting, the investigation, the research that we do here on A Mexican Crossing Lines, here on 88.1. You're also supporting local radio. If you are listening to the sound of my voice as you are driving around the Fargo, Moorhead metro area, and you want to get involved, you want to have a say, there are ways to do it. The best way, actually, because we do pre-record a lot of our programming, is for you to call our call-in line and leave your comment there. It will be played on the radio. We will play it on the radio, and I will respond. There are other ways you can also follow us on our social media platforms and watch as we do the show live. Comment there. There are many ways that you can support our work. Duke, tell them how it's done.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Our base of listeners go a long ways back. We've been on the air for 4 years. We do appreciate it. We pre-record these programs and we put them out on the air. You'll be hearing this. You're actually listening to this tomorrow because yesterday's on today. It's kind of like on the other side of the world. But if you'd like to get a hold of us, you can leave us a message on our call-in line at 701-566-0917. That's 701-566-0917. You can also go to kpppfm.com and have a look around from our old programming, even before we were on the radio and we just did podcasts. Lots of information there. You can also make a contribution to our nonprofit organization because we are a nonprofit organization, non-commercial, tax-deductible. Donations can be made by going to kpppfm.com/donate, and we'll send you a receipt right away. We'd appreciate the support, and I also have to mention there's some people that make monthly support to us every month. We appreciate you. If you ever want your name mentioned on the air, please let us know, and we will boast you up and thank you for all the wonderful things you've done for us. And you can also get a hold of us on Facebook. If you're watching this right now, on Facebook, you're watching 88.1 FM Fargo Moorhead, and you can go to YouTube at Duke1517. You can also find Cindy at Cindy Gomez-Schempp on Facebook, and you can find our radio station where I left you there. You can also find the old shows on Facebook. We have quite a few videos, hours and hours and hours of video. The people who have been joining us tonight, very much appreciate it. Please share it out. These are short shows. Not as long as some of the ones we've done in the past. Trying to keep them to an hour or less, to help people digest the information. We appreciate you being here and have a great show.
Thanks, Duke. So let's get into this conversation, okay? I have specifically focused tonight on Marjorie Taylor Greene because she is the new member that everyone is focused on, right? And incidentally, and this is the crazy thing, I've talked to people in the media that work in the media because we do media work, so we work with other media people. And so I did a fascinating interview with Chris Berg from Point of View over at KVLY. And is it KX?
KX4, yes.
KX4.
They share the two stations share the same studio.
Right. They're two different stations. Anyway, I had an interview, which you can find on YouTube. It's in Spanish, incidentally, but you can go and find this interview with me and Chris Berg. And in the interview...
It's on our page.
Oh, you can find it on our page. Okay. Yeah. I asked him about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and he said he didn't know her. He didn't know about her.
What?
Isn't that crazy? What do you think about this, Duke?
How would you not know about her?
By the way, Tommy Tuberville was also asked, and as was Lindsey Graham. Many Republicans are being asked about her, and they're saying, I don't know about her.
Well, I guess, I can't let media bias get in the way, but, some people don't watch ABC. They don't watch CBS. They don't watch NBC. And they're getting their news from places that probably aren't covering this woman who's been saying these bizarre things that Nancy Pelosi has indirectly talking about not feeling safe in Congress, gun toting. Did you ever watch Saturday Night Live? Well, people don't watch any of that stuff. Of course, they're not going to hear about her. It surprised me that people in the media wouldn't watch any other media than whatever stations they're watching. Although if you watch conservative media, she's on all that media everywhere. So all I can say is those people aren't reading anything or watching everything, so they're not informed about what's going on in this country.
It's not even just that, honey. Listen. In the time that Trump became president, there were a lot of technological advances that happened. First of all, Facebooking Live happened. It happened at Standing Rock while Obama was still president, and then right after that, media people, personalities that had no media background, had no training, became famous as YouTubers, as live streamers on Facebook, on Periscope. Suddenly, individuals could become their own media platforms, and many people started their own media platforms and gained a following. Among them are news sites like Newsmax, OAN, right?
Yep.
America's Voice, a whole bunch of platforms. You've seen them, you've heard of them. YouTubers, live streamers, all sorts of people had the potential of becoming influencers in the media by virtue of having a live platform, right? So when I heard members of Congress being questioned about Marjorie Taylor Greene and them saying, I don't know who she is. I don't know what she believes in. I've never heard of her. And this happened also with my colleague Chris. He was like, I don't know who the members of Congress are out of Georgia. I guess I'm not paying enough attention. I thought, oh my goodness, this isn't a game. They're not pretending not to know who she is. They really don't know. And I think that has to do with the fact that there are so many different media platforms that people can watch, that people are isolating themselves. Stay with me. I believe that people have isolated themselves in silos, in media silos, that confirm their biases, that tell them, that report to them the things they want to hear about, the things that they want said about the topics that they care about. And if those things are not happening on mainstream platforms, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, etc., they're going to go somewhere else to get that information, right?
Oh, so they're basically under a rock.
Well, I mean, of sorts. Mm-hmm. Of sorts. They're under
news rock.
They're under a news rock. And these news rocks consist of groups of people that are like-minded, that are watching media on these different platforms, which obviously are not followed by Republicans in Congress or people in the media. I was surprised by that. I figured that since a lot of the people that follow conservative programs, like a lot of the media programs in this area, would follow Newsmax, OAN, or, and interestingly, Mike Lindell of My Pillow was all over the media yesterday because of his appearance on Newsmax.
Who's that?
He's the My Pillow guy.
Oh, I've never heard of him.
You're funny. And so here's the height of irony, of all of the irony in the world, that Newsmax, which became even more popular after the election because President Trump was very angry at Fox News for calling Arizona early on, for saying that Biden was president, for calling out QAnon conspiracy theorists, for saying that Sidney Powell was wrong, for calling Sidney Powell a crazy conspiracy theorist, for telling the truth. Fox News began to tell the truth. They had to acknowledge reality to some degree. And when they began to do this, people stopped watching Fox News. Their ratings plummeted. And media like Newsmax had a lot of new followers because they continued to parrot the lies about the Dominion voting machines, about Hugo Chavez, about all sorts of conspiracy theories that are propagated by Q Anonymous. So it's the height of irony to me that Newsmax brought Mike Lindell of My Pillow onto their show specifically to talk about cancel culture, meaning his Twitter accounts being taken out, and they had to shut him down on Newsmax. Mm-hmm. They had to cancel him. They had to shut him down. And it wasn't because they too are part of cancel culture or because Fox News is part of cancel culture. Although many people won't watch those channels anymore because they're angry that they silenced Mike Lindell, that they silenced Sidney Powell, that they silenced Lynn Woods. They're mad because Newsmax and Fox News and Twitter have liability that they do not wish to take on for you, the viewers. They're not willing to lose their media platforms, end up in bankruptcy for a lie. And they have liability to be concerned with. Twitter has liability, including and extending to the damages that were caused at the Capitol due to the insurrection, for allowing the planning, organizing, and funding of the insurrection to be done on their platform. So does Facebook. And they know it. That's why they took down Parler. That's why Amazon and Google said, we don't want any of that. You know what Google, Amazon, Twitter, Facebook, Newsmax, you know what those things are called? They're called deep pockets. Under the law, those are the deep pockets that lawyers are looking to sue. If you are going to sue someone, you have to find the person that has the money is called the deep pockets. That's what those people represent. And they don't want to be the deep pockets. That's why Newsmax's anchor walked off the set he physically got up and said, I will not be held liable for being on this show with a crazy conspiracy theorist that is going to get me fired and have me bankrupt, right?
Yep.
So that is what's really going on. I told you it's not really cancel culture, it's liability. And the reason why, the reason all of these people are going to walk away from conspiracy theorists and liars like they just took a big dump in the middle of the room is for their own protection, so that they can continue to have jobs, careers, right? Mm-hmm. They're not going to, and they are not willing to, give everything up for a lie. The problem is that Marjorie Taylor Greene will. She is willing to do it all for a lie. She's willing to say things that, as a member of Congress, having said them, she is crossing the line of what is acceptable and what is considered free speech into the realm of inciting violence against members of our sitting Congress. In this video I am about to play for you, you're going to hear her talking about Nancy Pelosi and calling for her to be executed because she has committed treason. Listen for yourselves.
She's a traitor to our country. She's guilty of treason. Right. She took an oath to protect American citizens and uphold our laws. And she gives aid and comfort to our enemies who illegally invade our land. That's what treason is. Exactly. And by our law, representatives and senators can be kicked out and no longer serve in our government. And it's a crime punishable by death, is what treason is. Nancy Pelosi is guilty of treason, and we want her out of our government. She's held her seat of power for 32 years. She's 78 years old. She is dying in Congress. We are fed up with these corrupt politicians that hang on to their power just to make themselves rich.
Wow.
Okay. What do you think about that, dude?
You know, it's very, very, very threatening, of course, you know, and also full of lies. And it's like, she's talking to this crowd and they're like, yeah, yeah. And, you know, I get the feeling that they don't know who Nancy Pelosi is, really. They don't know how government works. She's been Speaker of the House. She's been in her position for many, many years. She's from California, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's really threatening stuff to say. And also she thinks she is speaking about the law that she really doesn't have the details about. You know, it's pretty scary. It's really scary stuff for someone to say that in public to a crowd that also ran for Congress and got elected.
Here's the thing, though. Ironically, she's right about treason. It is punishable by death. And invading, like what the rioters did at the Capitol building, violently trying to overthrow our government by invading on American soil, an invasion of our government to try to literally stop it in its tracks from functioning as it was meant to function under the Constitution. That is treason. And the insurrectionists, which she helped to incite to go into the Capitol and commit murder, which they did, that is punishable by death. And she and other members of Congress that helped to incite that violence can and should be removed and should be tried for treason, which, as she pointed out, is punishable by death. All of the things that she is saying in that video apply to Nancy Pelosi don't actually apply to Nancy Pelosi. They apply to her.
Projectionist.
They apply to her. Because she actually carried out the actions and the words that led to a violent insurrection, that led to the death of a police officer, Brian Sicknick, and 2 other police officers who died as a result of the trauma of that insurrection days later by suicide. 3 dead police officers, the very people carrying the flag of the thin blue line, which they carried into the Capitol during the insurrection, which they used to beat officers with, are the people that today in the Republican Party cannot call out Marjorie Taylor Greene for what she has said and what she has done. I am, quite frankly, shocked that the Republican Party doesn't see this as a bigger problem. But the reality is that very important figures within the Republican Party, and I'm talking about the foundational members of the Republican Party, like Karl Rove, have actually said Marjorie Taylor Greene is essentially a cancer to the GOP that must be excised immediately. And here is Fox News's clip of Karl Rove. They're asking this Congressmember Johnson what he thinks about Karl Rove's statement. Here's the clip.
So there are many members of your own party who are taking issue here. Let's take a quick break and listen to Karl Rove on this very issue, and we'll get your response, Congressman.
If you believe that the Jews control a space laser that starts fires in Northern California, and that there's some unnamed high-ranking government official who's got a heretofore unknown security classification called Q, and all the nutty things that flow with that, you should be taken off the prestigious House Education and Labor Committee and confined to the dark recesses of the furthest building away from the House floor, and then let the voters decide in the next election. She is a problem for our party.
Congressman, your response.
She is a problem for our party. She is a problem for the Republican Party. Folks, Biden started this term in office by saying that we are literally in a struggle for the soul of America. Right now, the Republican Party is in the death throes, and I am talking about the death throes, to save its life as a party going forward. And I know that many of the people in the Republican Party that have been ardent Trump supporters are having a hard time with this, especially those of you who have taken the QAnon Kool-Aid. But some of you are waking up. Some of you are seeing things for what they are. And some of you have even reached out to thank me for helping you to find your way back to your conservative roots, the real conservative roots of the conservative party. Is what Liz Cheney, Karl Rove, Mitch McConnell, and others of these, dyed-in-the-wool foundational members of the Republican Party, was what they represent still what the GOP values? Or have they shifted completely into the QAnon conspiracy world of Marjorie Taylor Greene? I don't know. I'm asking this question.
And we'll know more tomorrow because they had their committee meeting today and testimony. I watched part of it. And they're basically the Democrat-controlled committee. And their resolution basically strips her of her committees. But the other bill that someone has introduced to strip her, to kick her out of Congress, is another matter. They would need 3/4 of Congress to do that. And the way it's going, there's 145 Congress people who, are are going to probably stay with the Q theory stuff. I think we've seen a huge shift of the sheeple of Q that are basically going to be in the way of having real work done in Congress.
Here's where I part with Q conspiracies, okay? Because Q Anonymous has been around in liberal progressive politics and campaigns as much as they have been in Republican far right. Q Anonymous is an equal opportunity conspiracy theory. Q Anonymous are opportunists, hackers, black hats on the web.
Yeah.
Q Anonymous, in my opinion, are a bunch of lying cowards. And I call them lying cowards because a lot of what Q Anonymous says is never verifiable and turns out not to be true. Turns out to be a bunch of lies. Again and again, they make predictions. And, God love them. I've met and spoken to a lot of people that have swallowed the Q Anonymous lies, that believe completely in Q Anonymous and believe that it is a patriotic person that has some kind of security clearance. Hell, I've even made guesses as to who Q Anonymous is from amongst the many people that I know that completely and totally believe in Q Anonymous. There are even people in my own family that believe these Q Anonymous theories. And you know what the saddest part of it is? I want my family members back. I want sanity back. I don't want to have a conversation about Jewish lasers with my mom or try to talk her out of drinking bleach. I don't want to have to worry about the safety and well-being of people who are anti-vaxxers, of people who do not believe the coronavirus is real because it leads to death. Because what these people are saying, what the Q Anonymous adherents are spreading, are lies that lead to death. Mm-hmm. That is where we part ways. That is why during this pandemic in the year of 2020, this station and my programs departed from conspiracy theories and anti-vaxxers and coronavirus conspiracists. Because I am not going to spread misinformation that will lead to people not taking care of themselves and dying, as 8 people in my family have already done. Mm-hmm. Those bodies are real. And the fact that I had people asking me whether or not I really believed that they had died of coronavirus was not only infuriating, it was soul-sucking. Mm-hmm. That you would even have to have that kind of a conversation with people who you think have humanity and decency to them. That they would ask you, as you are still mourning over a warm, dead person, whether or not they really died of coronavirus. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing is what is going to destroy the Conservative Party. And for those who still believe there is a place for small government, for conservative values, right? Those who still adhere to the GOP existing in the future, they need to make up their minds right now. Is this going to be the QOP or is this going to be the GOP? You have to make up your mind. Here is a clip. I want to talk about it in a minute once we listen to Representative Ted Deutsch. He represents Florida's 22nd district. And this is what he had to say on MSNBC about the toxicity of Marjorie Taylor Greene and people like her in Congress. Here you go.
Ms. Green peddles conspiracy theories that radicalize people online. These theories aren't just deluded, they also advocate violence. They promote harassment, they dehumanize and devalue large swaths of our population based on race and on faith. Last year, FBI Director Wray testified that conspiracy theories like the ones Ms. Green promotes are among the most serious threats to American security. Ms. Green is now a member of Congress, one who has publicly spouted racist, anti-Semitic, Islamophobic garbage, has harassed survivors of mass shootings, denied their very occurrence. Now, I have cried with the families of Parkland, and I've grieved with them. And in my wallet, I still, to this day, carry a sheet of paper with the names of their loved ones so that they're never forgotten in Congress.
You know, Duke, one of the things that Marjorie Taylor Greene is accused of, and there is video evidence of it, although I will not be playing it here, it's been all over the news media in the last few days, is video of Marjorie Taylor Greene, this was prior to her being a member of Congress, in Washington, D.C., basically haranguing Mr., I think his name is David Hogg, the activist student that survived the Parkland shooting massacre. And there have been other shootings that Marjorie Taylor Greene has not only denied happened, but she called Mr. Hogg a little Hitler. She basically harangued him for using what she claimed to be his lobby to go to Congress and take away her Second Amendment rights to carry a gun. This is the same Marjorie Taylor Greene that after the insurrection happened has blown past metal detectors a number of times to ensure that she can carry a firearm onto the floor of Congress. You know, I understand there are a lot of people that feel very, very strongly about their Second Amendment rights to bear arms. We are gun owners ourselves. We defend the right of people to have and carry weapons. We live in one of the most liberal weapons state in the country, North Dakota, right?
That's right.
What do you make of this woman denying school shooting massacres? And in one instance, by the way, in her denial of what occurred in the massacre in Las Vegas, she implied that the Las Vegas shooting happened to conservative country music loving folks in order to make them get rid of their guns, in order to those people were murdered so that gun laws could be passed that would restrict the Second Amendment. What do you make of this?
Well, I think that she's crazy.
How do you reconcile it with gun ownership, though?
You can't. Yeah. In fact, the whole thing is there's some aspects. I mean, we live in Minnesota, right next to North Dakota. North Dakota, you can walk around town with your shotgun hanging on your shoulder. Downtown, go have a cup of coffee, all those sorts of things. Minnesota, you can't. You can't carry a shotgun. You have to carry it in a case. You can't have ammunition near it and all those sorts of things. Those things have come about in Minnesota because they have restricted guns in some way. To get a gun in Minnesota, you had to go through a lot of paperwork, proof of your identity. You had to fill out a questionnaire, whether you've used drugs, whether you've been arrested for anything, all these things. What she's talking about, though, is like all of a sudden they're going to change the laws and they're going to come breaking into your house and take your guns, and that sort of thing. And that is so unreasonable. And also, it's in the Constitution. Study up on what it takes to actually do a constitutional amendment, which can take up to 10 years and have to have 35 states ratify the change. And, it would be a long process before they come and start taking your guns away from you. So it's misinformation, it's disinformation, and also it's just sensationalized news that she's doing.
The part that really is gut-wrenching to me, that makes you kind of nauseated, is the fact that she would chase down a young man who's the survivor of a mass shooting and harangue him, that this person who does not believe that these shootings even took place, that calls into question the death of so many fallen heroes at 9/11. Mm-hmm. And that she is not only in Congress, that she has been seated on a committee on education.
Yep.
When she does not even believe that the school shootings are an issue, that she frames them as part of a deep state lie.
Yeah, and she's also from the 14th Congressional District in her state. And I was just watching a program last night that in the first election, she didn't give 50%, so they had to have a runoff.
Yeah.
Because in that state, if you don't get 50% of the vote, you have to have a runoff. And in the second election, which runoff elections are always less voter turnout, except when it came to the Senate because it's so hyped nationally. I think she rode in a wave. I haven't looked at the voter turnout from the first election and the runoff election, but I think a bunch of people voted for her, and it's just, I think they're going to have buyer's remorse as they see what's panning out in Congress today.
Oh, definitely people are having buyer's remorse. I think that this problem kind of got ahead of members of Congress. Mm-hmm. When I first heard Tommy Tuberville say that he did not even know who Marjorie Taylor Greene was, I think he said something like, the weather has been so bad, he hasn't been able to read the news.
That's right.
And I was like, does this man have the internet?
Nope, he just gets newspapers, I guess.
Are they buried under the snow? I mean, what is the problem here? Why can't he know what Marjorie Greene is up to? How is it possible that nobody in Congress has a grasp of what this woman's history is? And, I kind of thought that it was similar to Trump's denials that he knew what the Ku Klux Klan was.
Oh, yeah.
Or David Duke's
Who's
endorsement.
David Duke? Yes.
He was like, I don't know who David Duke is.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you totally know David Duke.
He also said Q. He says, Q, they like me. I don't know who they are, but they like me.
I know that they're very patriotic people that hate pedophilia, and that's a good thing. And I hear they like me a lot. Listen, he doesn't just know who Q is. He is very close to whoever Q is. The person that represents Q, the people that speak for Q, he is like uña y mugre, like we say in Spanish. They are like this. They are connected at the hip. One of them spews false prophecies, and Trump basically doesn't deny them, which gives them credibility. He gave QAnonymous credibility. He gave the Proud Boys credibility.
Oh, yeah.
And so did people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. But she's not the only one. In many ways, the fact that more members of Congress are unaware of the damage, of the cancer that the QAnonymous conspiracies and lies represent to the party, to the Republicans, the fact that they don't know that they've been swimming in this poisonous sludge, that it is all around them, that it has been propagated through these media platforms, is a detriment to the Republican Party. Because not only do they need to wake up real quick and figure it out, they also have to clean house. You cannot keep this cancer of lies within your party and hope that somehow that's going to lead to you having a great, robust, growing party. When you get into the world of cultism, when you start adhering to conspiracies and, Jewish lasers and all sorts of other ugly anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim, anti-American ideologies, and you let those live alongside of the Karl Roves and the Dick Cheneys and the Mike and the Mitch McConnells of the Republican Party, somebody is going to end up poisoned. Somebody is going to end up dead. You've already had 8 dead people as a result of this insurrection. There will be more casualties. There will be more casualties in terms of the loss of people. In Arizona, tens of thousands of people changed their party affiliation from Republican to independent or something else. They went off of the Republican rolls by the thousands. In Nevada, in Michigan, by the thousands, over 50,000 people in the days after the 6th of January's insurrection left the Republican Party. The Republican Party is bleeding itself out, and they're doing so. They're sacrificing the Republican Party, and they're dying on the hill of conspiracy. Is this worth your death? Is this worth the death of the party, of conservatives? I want to hear from conservatives. Duke, tell people how they can call and leave a message on our call-in line. I want to hear and I want to play on the radio the comments from people in the Conservative Party. What do you think? Democrats, you're welcome. Independents, you're welcome to chime in. Libertarians, you're welcome to chime in. I really don't care what party affiliation you hail from. I want to know what you think about what the Republican Party is doing, continuing to embrace a woman who, according to recent reports, has been connected to moderating a Facebook page that includes death threats, racist memes. This is the post on Twitter about this group, which includes the John Birch Society. It promotes assorted conspiracy theories, and Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of the moderators on this Facebook page. What do you think about that, Duke? In addition to the fact that she herself has espoused having Nancy Pelosi killed, members of the FBI killed, doesn't believe that 9/11 happened, doesn't believe that these massacres and shootings happened. Also, she has been connected to this page that propagates this nonsense and that has racism and anti-Semitism, all of it to boot. What do you think?
Well, I think your challenge is excellent for people to call in to 701-566-0917. Again, it's 701-566-0917. You can only record about 3 minutes, so choose your words wisely and really stick with the issue of what do you think is going to happen with this party, with the Republican Party. Oh, I long for having a functional Republican Party that makes sense, that has positions. You know, my if I was calling, I'd say we need to have the Republican Party survive because it creates the ebbs and flows of government. But to have an obstructionist and having this party that's not the values of this country or even the values of this government, it's going to destroy our whole government. And it's not good to have a one-party system. You know, maybe it is. People might even argue for that. Get rid of the parties. Don't even have this. And we just do majority rule for whoever gets elected. I don't know. We have a whole history of democracy in the republic that we live in. And I think that there should be people getting rid of the slime that's in there right now and figuring out a way to do that fairly, but clean it up. Clean up that swamp.
Listen, the lines have been blurred here. And this particular page that she was a moderator for is a perfect example. The group is called the Family America Project, okay? And we need to know more about Marjorie Taylor Greene and a lot of the other QAnonymous conspiracy theorist members of Congress, adherents to these ideas, these lies that have been propagated by people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Because in her background, as a lot of people are beginning to learn, there are a lot of things that are very concerning, very troubling. This particular group, which she was the one-time national director of, okay, describes itself as a national umbrella organization connecting, uniting, and informing statewide grassroots groups and activists working together to mobilize support for President Trump and America's roots and culture. The group was founded in 2018, headed by Genevieve Peters, a veteran conservative activist who calls herself a Christian, passionate Trump supporter, constitutional defender, and also is an ardent coronavirus conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
Maybe best known for a viral video of her capturing her refusal to wear a mask at Trader Joe's.
Okay.
You might recall. But much of their political activity for this Family America Project group was very standard conservative fare, opposing sanctuary cities, abortion rights, boosting Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett's Supreme Court appointment. You know, the standard conservative values, things that people kind of across the board can agree upon. However, they also promoted the January 6th march that led to the murderous raid on our Capitol. And Marjorie Taylor Greene has been part of this group for years, going far back beyond her congressional tenure. So what are the things that these pages promoted? Well, for one, they promoted killing members of Congress and other political figures like Obama and Hillary. In this post, you can see Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of the people that liked this post, which asked about Hillary and Obama, whether or not they should have a bullet in their head. People were asking, now do we get to hang them, meaning Hillary and Obama? And someone responded to that, a bullet to the head would be quicker, to which Marjorie Taylor Greene agreed.
Oh, yeah.
By liking the post. That's one of the many kinds of posts that you could expect to see from Marjorie Taylor Greene. And when this all came out, people that were reporting this in Mother Jones, I'll give you the link to the article in case you want to go and read for yourself the details of what was uncovered about her background. It's all coming out right now. Instead of making a public statement, instead of putting out a press release like Donald Trump would have done, she tweeted this instead. She said, fake news CNN is writing yet another hit piece on me focused on my time before running for political office. I will never back down to the enemies of American people, and neither should you. Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is a woman who helped to incite a riot to overthrow our government. This is literally what makes her and others of her ilk a threat to the American people, an enemy to the Constitution and to American people in general. But that's what she is saying that CNN is doing to her, merely for exposing what she did. Now, she says here, Duke, this is focused on stuff that happened before I ran for office. Does that matter?
No, your character and the things you do in your past are, they have to do with what you are today. So for her to say, well, I just wanted to put bullets in the head of Congress a few years ago, it doesn't mean I want to do it now, although I want to carry my gun through into Congress, carry it at all times, and harangue kids who have been terrified and victimized by mass shootings in this country. But that was me in the past, but I still believe the same thing, so that shouldn't matter. I mean, it's like schizophrenic, it's delusional, psychotic, all sorts of, that this woman needs to check in somewhere, and it shouldn't be in Congress.
And by the way, here's the full tweet that she said about fake news. The fake news, though, that's the tweet that she made, but the inner tweet there, that is what the full tweet says. It says, fake news, CNN is writing yet another hit piece on me, focused on my time before running for political office. Over the years, I have had teams of people managing my pages. Someone else
liked it or did things.
Many posts have been liked and many posts have been shared. Some did not represent my views. So she's basically saying someone else may be responsible for some of these tweets that you don't like, some of these videos that you don't like, some of the things that she said and did might not have been her views.
Well, if that's true, and I can see it's kind of weak that you just like the post, but at the same time, she's professing the same things that she was liking there. If she was a totally different person and was like, well, that wasn't me. It was like, I had 20 people managing the pages and they were going crazy and doing this stuff. Didn't get my consent for everything they did under my name. And then she's still leading the charge on the same things today. It doesn't carry any water.
Basically, she's saying, my account was hacked by other people, so it wasn't me.
That's right.
And take a look at this this tweet. She says, especially the ones that CNN is about to spread across the internet. So the really egregious ones, most of them are videos of her talking, by the way.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's the stuff that you really can't trust who it came from. They're taking old Facebook posts. This is ancient history, by the way, she says. And they're trying to cancel me and silence me. CNN hasn't tried once to cancel a Democrat, even those who called for violence while they were in office. Here's the truth. The Democrats and their spokespersons and the fake news media will stop at nothing to defeat conservative Republicans. They're coming after me because I'm a threat to their goal of socialism. They're coming after me because they know I represent people, not politicians. They're coming after me like President Trump. I will always defend our values. They want to make me out because I represent you. They want to take me out because I represent you, and they absolutely hate it. Prepare for the smears. Prepare for the attacks. I will never back down to the enemy of the American people, and neither should you. And by the way, she's already raised over $50,000 in her defense.
Well, we got a lot of nutty people in this country. A lot of people, this pandemic, they talk about the psychological effects and the depression and the craziness, the stir craziness that has come about. I think that has something to do with it too.
But the real question I have for America and for the American people today is there enough room for Marjorie Taylor Greene in the Republican Party? Can the Republican Party survive the conspiracy theories and the lies of Marjorie Taylor Greene and the calls for violence? I guess only time will tell, but I do believe that we need to look very deeply into the history of these QAnon conspiracy theorist members of Congress. And we have to try to figure out whether or not we want to keep this in our Congress or we want to expel it from our Congress and from our politics in general. That's all I have for you today here on A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You've been listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP, Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Good night, and God bless.
Thank you, folks.